Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
It's a celebratory day, because Gawain's dead.
Yeah, he is dead.
You finally beefed it.
Ding dong.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Which old witch? This old bitch.
This old bitch. Yep, he went down about as inconveniently as it was possible to go down.
Yeah.
And, you know, what else could we expect from him?
Nothing. He's been an inconvenience from the day he was born, and he managed up until the very moment of his death to be an inconvenience.
Loser from day 0
Yeah.
to day whatever.
Yeah.
Don't flinch, you have an eyelash.
Okay. It's gone now. My face is clean. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, this is Everybody Hates Gawain, your friendly neighborhood Wheelie Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I am Sally Gidger.
Okay, hey, it's still the last battle. Not very...
It sure is.
It sure is. It's gonna... Again, for the millionth time, this chapter was not meant to be split into 2 months and read over that timeline, but here we are. We have to talk about
how
it.
else were we gonna do it? This chapter is unwieldy.
I know, there's also no way we could have, on a podcast level, spoken about it and hitting all the highs and lows of high school football.
Yeah.
The epic highs and lows. This was definitely an epic high for me. An epic low for Egg.
It's fine. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. We're, again, just going section by section. We start out with a rare Sylviana point of view that does the Brandon Sanderson / poor editing thing of accidentally switching to Egg's point of view mid-sentence at one point.
Yeah.
But nominally it is a Sylviana point of view as she is fighting alongside Egg, and Edwin reacts to Gawain getting mortally wounded by Demandred. Sylviana's like, oh my gosh, it's some sort of insane criminal weave against the Amerlincy, and Edwin's like, no, it's just the warder bond, which should itself be an insane criminal weave.
I know that at least someone's trying to use Alana in that way. You're right. It should be a criminal weave in general, but it is funny to try to attempt assassination of a political figure based off of who they're bonded to.
Yeah, Gawain's not dead yet, so Sylviana's like, pass his bond to me because we cannot afford to have you go into sort of a manic grief episode the way Aes Sedai traditionally do when their warders die. And Edwin's like, no, because you need to fight too, and we're just gonna have to go and try and reach him and heal him before he dies, which is like, they don't know how bad he's wounded, but
yeah. Egg also reacts to this like it's really a very offensive thing that Sylviana is saying, like, pass me his bond. Like, Egg is like, how dare you? Like, I would never do that. It's so despicable. And, like, I get that Gawain doesn't have a say in it at this instance, and that kind of sucks, but, like...
It's not like you're passing your marriage to Sylviana.
And, like, this is the last battle, and, like, I need you, the Amerlincy, to be pragmatic about things. So this really, really frustrated me.
Yeah, Sylviana's not a better fighter than Edwin. Edwin is a much more crucial presence on the battlefield, so it makes pragmatic sense. And the fact that Edwin dismisses it as this sort of like, it sort of buys into the whole warder bond being this romantic thing and emblematic of romance and one's personal connections rather than what it is, which is a weave that has a lot of connotations, including, like, professional connotations. So while I do think that, like, Edwin passing the bond away would have, like, offended Gawain in his dying moments, it's exactly what he deserves.
It is exactly what he deserves for this tomfuck decision that he made. And it just... The narrative is going so far out of its way to kill Egg. It's just unbelievable.
They're like, we want her dead.
And, like, she could die. Spoiler alert if you don't know. She could die in any number of formations on this battlefield, but for her to go insane because of Gawain's idiocy and therefore put herself at risk is
pretty gnarly, yeah.
Just, like, height of misogyny, in my opinion. Okay, anyway.
We get an Elaine point of view as she and Brigitte talk about how Brigitte has officially lost all of her memories preceding waking up in the real world, which is very sad, and also is sort of, like, gesturing to, like, this is an issue that can't possibly be resolved within the structure of the last battle. You know, this is not something that can be fought with swords and bows and arrows and whatnot. So we need, if this is going to be resolved, and the fact that it keeps being brought up indicates that it needs to be resolved, we need some sort of, like, magical solution. So put a pin in that. Galad is also around. He's like, hey, he gets a message from Matt instructing him to take a number of, like, a dozen white cloaks or something, along with one of the medallion copies of the fox head, and just, like, go behind enemy lines and start doing assassinations of channelers. And Galad's like, yeah, okay, this seems like a suitable task. And Elaine's like, just real quick, you're not one of those nerd-ass losers who can't kill a woman, right? And Galad's like, no, I'm a Chad. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm Big Dick Richie over here.
Yeah.
I believe in women's rights and women's wrongs.
And I believe in my right to execute women for their wrongs.
To extrajudicially execute women. Yeah, we then get the Galad point of view where he's doing this, and he's, like, normal about it, but some of the White Cloaks are, like, a little too into it. And you're like,
And it just doesn't seem commented upon enough how into hacking up women they are.
Yeah, there's a sort of, like, implicit... like, I want to believe that Matt was like, I'll send the White Cloaks, because when the White Cloaks die inevitably, because this is sort of a suicide mission, it's not like anyone's gonna miss them.
Yeah.
This will be a net positive for society as a whole.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. Gareth Bryn comes up and is like, has anyone seen Gawain? And Elaine and Galad are like, no, isn't he with Egg, where he's supposed to be? And Bryn's like, no, he's gone off fighting, that's crazy. And Elaine's like, ugh, well, we'll keep an eye out for him. But, you know, can't afford to react the way a sibling would react to their brother being MIA.
Yeah.
Unlike Edwin. Matt is in the command tent doing commands when Logain enters. His, like, dramatic entrance.
And Matt's like, ew.
Matt's like,
what are you doing here? Filth.
Min's in the corner like, this is the first time she's seen Logain since the road trip from hell.
Since that shenanigan.
Come to think of it, everyone in this tent has been on a road trip from hell. Matt with Rand in book 1, Min and Logain, 2 on post-kidnapping.
The circus,
Yeah. And not a lot of fun road trips that people in the Wheel of Time have had. Anyway, Matt's like, so what's your deal? Are you, like, jealous of Rand? And Logain's like, I'm not jealous, he said jealously. You're like, okay, I don't buy it. Logain's like, what I want is to go fight Demandred because he just is asking for the Dragon Reborn and the best you've got is me. And Matt's like, okay, I do need to do something about Demandred theoretically, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's very funny to me that Logain asks Matt's permission.
Yeah, it's a very funny, like, power dynamic scene
Yeah.
wherein Logain is, like, both this arrogant, like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do regardless, but I have, for some reason, come to your tent to notify you of this. Mm-hmm. Like, Logain's teetering on this edge, as he kind of has been throughout the book, and I think this is the most interesting part of him, and unfortunately the part that the narrative is least interested in, that is, like, wants to be a well-integrated part of society and, like, a person who is doing good things, as opposed to his very, like, selfish impulses toward, like, glory and dominion and whatnot. So he's, like, kind of got this thing going on, this conflict inside of him that isn't even, like, manifest except in these very, like, quiet sort of, when you, like, stop to think, like, why is he even telling Matt, you know?
Yeah.
Gawain just ran off and did the thing. Badly.
Girl, I fucking Gawain.
But Logain's like, send me. And Matt's like, yeah, okay.
And you have to imagine Logain was like, good job, Logain.
Logain's like, yes.
Good social interaction.
Logain goes out and looks in a mirror. I believe in me.
I believe in me.
Positive affirmation.
Social anxiety king.
The idea of Logain having crippling social anxiety is very funny to me. Man mutters something about how her big viewing about Logain, that he'll have glory, has not yet been fulfilled, blah, 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 blah. Matt says something to Tuon about how maybe she should, like, go to a more secure position. And Tuon's like, I can take care of myself. And Matt's like, eh? He references, so fast you might miss it, that he and Tuon have decided quietly, in order to draw out their spy, or perhaps just in order to maneuver a little bit, that they're going to stage some sort of fight/breakup in order to get the Shanshin briefly off the board and making the Shadow think that they're no longer a threat. And it's like, okay, that's about as dramatic as I would expect from the two of you.
Yeah.
It is ironic because literally seconds after this conversation, a bunch of Grey Men assassins enter the tent and try and kill everyone. So, who was right? Matt was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, this is not a safe place to be. And Tuon almost beefs it. And God.
I
If
know.
only.
There's a scene where, like, Min's like, oh, we'll get to it. We flip to a Min point of view. The tent, like, is immediately on fire.
Yeah.
Because there are also channelers. Min gets out of the tent while Tuon and Matt are fighting. She runs into Swan, who is looking for Matt. Min's like, where's Bran? You guys are supposed to be glued at the hip, you know? Like, according to my viewing, you'll die if you're apart. And Swan's like, no, we already, like, did that. We saved each other's lives a while ago. And Min's like, it's still in effect. You're gonna die. Yeah. And Swan's like, well, you know what the French say. Que sera, sera. They run into the tent. Matt and Tuon are still fighting. Tuon's, like, about to get stabbed, and Min, for the very first time in her life, successfully throws a knife.
Proud of you, girl.
I am both proud of you and, like, but how in success did you beef it this badly?
Yeah.
We could have just let Tuon die. Come on, girl.
Yeah, you're right. Proud of you, Min, for doing anything at all. Very
For
mad at
contributing
you.
to the narrative.
Yeah. Very mad at you for not letting Tuon just
Yeah, it would have been so funny when
die.
I was like,
Oh, my knife.
oh no, everyone knows how bad I am at throwing knives. I have complete plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Nope. Matt grabs Tuon and they're leaving when Min's like, oh, Swan's here too, and Matt's like, oh, she's fully dead. So Swan just, like, died off screen by unknown means.
Yeah.
And so now wherever Bryn is, he's gonna go into the, like, warder berserker rage. And presumably die in battle. So, sort of as we already referenced, Swan already had her sentimental, like, can't wait to retire tomorrow speech with Egg, so this isn't exactly coming out of left field, Swan's death. But Swan has been a major character for the last 14 books, so salute, I guess.
Yeah, I'm way more sad about Swan dying than I am about Gawain dying.
For real.
I am very fascinated, though, by the way it happens. One, that it's off screen for such a major character death. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that we're in Min's head and Min isn't watching it happen.
Yeah. And two, sort of the first character who has a response to Min's viewing that I'm, like, actually interested in. So many people get really hung up on them, you know, but Swan's just like, fuck that, the general's in danger, and where I think I need to be is trying to help resolve this situation. I don't really care if I die.
And, like, Swan did help.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got Min in there, blah, 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 blah. I do think, I was thinking about this while reading this, the very first conversation that we see Matt and Swan have, one of their only conversations, Swan tells Matt this little parable about her uncle who ran into a burning building and died that way, saving children.
Wow.
And sort of the definition of heroism. And so it's very fitting that Swan would die by running into a burning tent to save Matt.
Yeah.
Although the narrative lets us sort of have that quietly. So, you know, it's these little poetic moments. I really wish Matt and Swan could have had a reunion.
Absolutely.
Of some kind. I think I really liked them in The Dragon Reborn. They had a very funny sort of series of interactions.
Yeah.
That's it. R.I.P. Swan, I guess, and by extension, R.I.P. Bryn, who I don't really care about.
I hope he kills a lot of Trollocs on the
I
battlefield.
hope he goes down fighting. I'm glad they died together, as they should be.
Yeah.
One of the worst couples in Wheelie Time.
Truly.
Brief Edwene point of view, still fighting, still trying to get to Gawain. Then a surprise Demandred point of view. Demandred is warging into the eyes of a falcon. Didn't know that was the thing you could do, but apparently it is if you use the true power. Not in other forms of power, but just this one.
Yeah, and you're like, fine.
He's like, this is like a classic maneuver in order to see the entire battlefield, and it really pisses me off that these people have come up with incredible innovations like using gateways as windows. And I'm like, how is it possible that in the Age of Legends no one thought of that?
You guys thought of warging into birds, but you didn't think to put a gateway in the sky.
You didn't think about windows. You didn't think about turning the gateway on its axis.
Yeah.
Slightly. Boy. This Demandred point of view is so out of pocket, I have no idea what to do with it. He's like, here I am, warging. Here comes one of my right-hand Sharan people, a woman named Shendala. And Demandred's like, just so you know, I have a thing with Shendala. Yeah. She's clearly in love with me, and I'm on the fence about her. Yeah. And it's like, why would you introduce this at this stage?
Just like 2/3 of the, or more of the way through the last book. This is like one of only a handful of Demandred points of view max. And you're like,
entire series,
here's just like the lowdown on my situationship.
Sexually. Yeah. I need you to know. Sexually, I fuck.
Yeah, and you're like, do you guys? What's the deal here? Like, or is it just pining? Are you fucking?
Yeah, it kind of seems like just pining.
And usually sort of touch hands awkwardly.
Yeah, and also it's like really nerfs Demandred's sort of monomaniacal obsession.
Absolutely. I was reading it and I was like, Demandred basically only works if his one dimension is
obsessed with the Dragon Reborn.
The Wren. Yeah. I don't need anything else from him because the obsession doesn't work if there's anything else going on with him.
Yeah, and to an extent, it's like his threat level gets taken down from 9 to 4.
Yeah, because it isn't truly this all-encompassing sort of.
It's not a powerful thing that Demandred has. A lover. A will they, won't they?
A will they,
situation
won't they.
With a random woman who he's been lying to and gaslighting her entire society.
Yeah.
You know, that's not cool. That doesn't make him look more manly or whatever. It just makes him look like more of a normal person. And Demandred only works if he is this absolutely on the edge of insanity weirdo.
Also, like, why are we trying to give dimension to any of the Forsaken?
I don't
They
know.
don't really need
Yeah,
it.
they really don't. They're literally, I think the two Forsaken who should have had dimensions were Asmodean, because we put him in a sort of ethical situation that did require some dimension, and Ishmael because he's the main one.
Yeah.
Everyone else,
It's
one dimension
so fine.
at most.
It's so weird. It's such a
1D except for Lanfear's tits. Those are 3D.
3D. It's just such a weird case of Wheel of Time's need to have people paired off. And I was like, you don't...
Even
Forsaken-
Demandred.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
God
And-
forbid we think Demandred prefers men.
Or why do I have to think of the Forsaken as sexual creatures at all?
Yeah.
Like, they're just the bad guys. They don't have to... But it gets even more out of pocket when Mazrim Tem walks in.
Oh my, well, real quick, the only reason I can imagine this interaction with Shendla being shoehorned in is so that Brandon Sanderson can clarify that the Sharans believe that they are doing the right thing, that they're, on the right side, which of course is why they're fighting side by side with Trollocs.
Yeah, dog, you think I care at this point in time what the Sharans' motivations are?
Yeah. Yeah, Demandred's like, aren't you, nervous? It seems like you don't know what we're doing. And she's like, well, some would call you evil, but once you're victorious, you'll remake our world and our people will be preserved. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that the Sharans aren't just mustache-twirling evil, but also them being introduced in Book 14 does not give us many opportunities to think of them as anything other than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, then Mazrim Tem shows up to sort of be like, tee-hee, you're not doing so hot, and Demandred immediately, shields him and puts him in, a weird black hole that's getting his power sucked out of him, and is making more of those creepy void cracks appear in the world. And he's like, I just want to clarify the situation for you. I don't care about you.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Mazrim Tem's like, God damn it.
This whole thing with Mazrim Tem was so much more interesting than Shendla. I don't even know why. Again, no idea what was going on there. But Demandred, this plays into his sort of, one-minded. He's like, I don't care about your little Forsaken hierarchy. I truly don't care about anything but fighting the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, it plays into things we know already about both Mazrim Tem and Demandred, and it's so much of what the last battle has been building toward, and so much of the excitement of the later books is this sort of Avengers effect of seeing characters interact and work together who haven't previously been, who have been in their own separate universes. And that even applies to the Forsaken and Mazrim Tem, who's been very isolated within the Black Tower. So kind of having to see Mazrim Tem be the bottom of the totem pole for the Forsaken is yeah, okay, I buy that, and also it's fun.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sucker.
Hell yeah, brother. Fucking loser.
Then we get a Rand point of view, just talking to the Dark One again. It's very short. Rand does give the Dark One it pronouns, because he doesn't have gender. The main thing is that, what?
It.
Yeah. The main thing is that the Dark One, obliquely shows Rand the battlefield and, people dying and look how bad it is, blah, 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 blah. Which is only important in that it will happen again in this sort of extended interaction. So we're establishing that move. But then the Dark One is, going to put Rand in another vision of what if the Dark One wins, I guess. Then we have a Julian point of view as he's fighting. He doesn't die or anything, he's just fighting. We get occasionally these points of view. Brandon Sanderson will do them like Julian, like Uno, like Tam to a certain extent, just to be here's what it's like out on the front lines, I guess. I think they're a little unnecessary in that I can imagine what the front lines are like.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the attempt to be like, many types of people are fighting.
Yeah, it also has this undercurrent of, like, checking in with a beloved character, which is so kind in theory, but I'm like, I really wouldn't clock Julin as one of my beloved characters.
Julin gets out his signature weapon, a sword breaker, and I'm like, I haven't cared about Julin since book 3.
Yeah.
When I cared about him briefly.
Yeah.
And since then, I have not cared about him at all.
No. Sorry, babe.
Then an Andrel point of view, God almighty. Andrel mansplains warfare to Pavara. It's ridiculous that Pavara would not know theoretically about warfare, considering that she is an Aes Sedai and is like 600 years old.
Yeah, slay girl.
But they're in some sort of disguise, just going behind enemy lines in an attempt to find Mazrim Tem. They're just like kind of looking for anyone who might point them toward Mazrim Tem. They get waylaid by someone who is like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? I'll take you to the wild. Meaning Demandred. And they're like, okay, might as well. Flirting. Wheel of Time style, which involves jealousy.
Jealousy.
Bickering. Brandon Sanderson's weird sense of humor. We get the final canonical reference to Amarin being gay.
It does say he prefers men, which I'm choosing to believe as he is a bisexual guy who just leans more towards men. Brandon did not say the word gay. Did not say homosexual.
I'm not convinced Brandon Sanderson knows the word gay.
So, preferring men.
Yeah, that's our little, fantasy way of calling people not straight.
Yeah, it would...
Which I think is boring. I think you should make a fun fantasy word for it.
That makes me so nervous. Everything people are gonna create is gonna sound so
Like a
slur-coded. Yeah. There's no way someone's gonna pick a normal word in their fantasy.
Besides, Amarin is a fad.
Oh god. Just say gay or queer. Or in your book say LGBTQIA+.
Oh my god, can you imagine? And then there's a little pride flag fully illustrated on it's instead of a map.
Yeah.
We wasted so much money on printing all the colors.
Yeah, it's full color.
But Brandon is an ally.
Ally!
So he has to establish allyship. No, yeah, you obviously can't have the words queer, gay, or LGBTQ in the Wheel of Time because that would require admitting that gay people exist.
Yes,
something that has not happened until this book.
Literally ever. Amarin's the first one in all of Wheel of Time.
Amarin and that one random general who Lan interacts with.
Oh, yeah.
They get taken to Demandred, who's like, why is everyone around me so incompetent? Who even are you people? They're like, hey, he's like, okay, fuck Mazrim Tem. He's over there. Go talk to him. And they're like, sweet, we got directed to Mazrim Tem. And hustle in that direction. We get Galad's suicide mission. Again, some of the White Cloaks are a little too eager to murder people. But one of them finds Gawain. Like, Gawain.
Laying on some rocks somewhere.
Yeah, Galad's like fully thinks he's dead until Gawain like jump scares him by opening his eyes, and Galad's like, ha!
Stabs him.
Just kills him immediately. He's like, oh, we gotta get you to the hospital, man. I'll take you, don't worry. Gawain's like, tell Edwina I loved her. And Galad's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Gawain's like, I didn't kill Demandred. I've never been quite good enough. And you're like, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Like, there is another character structure where I would find someone, like, really struggling with self-worth and an inferiority complex, like, interesting. Perhaps if Gawain was not the most privileged a person could possibly be in Wheel of Time world, and just being like
so entitled.
Yeah, and just being like, his inferiority comes from having a female partner who's more power important than him. Like, I'm just so sick of him being like, I've never been good enough. Galad's better at me than swords. And it's like, okay, well, Galad's autistic and swords are his special interest, so...
Galad's autistic Rizz off the chart.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between narratives about self-worth wherein people are trying to measure up, like, to themselves or even to an external standard that is being imposed upon them, and they just feel like they can't get there because of some intrinsic failure in themselves, as opposed to Gawain, who has a very, like, externalizing notion of not being good enough. That he's entitled to be the best, whatever that means, and that when he doesn't get there, it's because of, like, things outside of the world. Things outside of his control.
Externalizing all his problems, one might say. Gawain himself has never been the problem.
He's not the problem. Gawain's last words are so hilarious. He's like, just so you know, Galad, your brother's the dragon reborn. Perishes. And Galad's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
Galad's like, and I put it in a little box.
And Galad's like, okay, I'm gonna roll that one back. Like, it's almost ludicrous for it to be revealed at all at this stage. It's not like Galad can do anything about it. Rand is fully on the other side of the continent. Spoiler, but Rand and Galad will not interact at the end.
Why would they?
Yeah.
Galad's a normal person who's like, that doesn't seem like my business.
Yeah, Galad's just gonna be like, okay, well, I'll take that under advisement. Weird. Anyway, then Gawain dies. Gawain does insist that he stopped hating the Dragon Reborn with his dying words, and it's like, no, you didn't.
But I don't believe it.
I don't believe you. Edwene feels Gawain die. She, like, goes nuclear for a minute before Sylviana and her bodyguards kind of, like, take her away from the battlefield to faint very Victorianly.
One more maybe quick thing on Gawain's death. It's not a bad thing for characters to die in a situation like this, so it's not that I necessarily have beef with any character beefing it. But as we've mentioned, and as Emily just summarized, Gawain's death prompts Egg to go into a sort of berserker, not even really, men go berserk, women go hysterical, it seems. So let's into a hysterical state, which nerfs her as one of the most powerful people on the battlefield, which really ups the stakes for our good guys, having lost, a key player on the chessboard, which just feels really unnecessary to me at this point. The stakes, I think I keep referencing this, but the stakes already feel high enough. Like, you have one of the Forsaken on the battlefield who's just bale-firing everything. You have an outnumbered army. You have a limited number of arrows, as Tam will tell us in the next point of view. Like, it doesn't really feel like it matters a whole lot in terms of stakes. If, like, it doesn't feel... Egg's death doesn't feel unnecessary, and I don't know if this directly leads to her death. We haven't gotten there yet. But removing Egg from the battlefield in any way, shape, or form doesn't really feel like a necessary stake to me, so I'm feeling very frustrated by the way the ante is being upped, personally.
Yeah, the way the last battle is being structured is giving our main characters more or less these, like, miniature storylines to follow that each are supposed to have, like, crescendos of personal stakes as well as stakes that affect the battlefield more generally. Like, I don't know, Matt having this sort of, like, personal character arc crescendo that is also him being in control of the battlefield. Meanwhile, there's stuff going on with him and Tuon, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't know. I'm just curious if there is any other possibility in order to make the last battle as, like, climactic as everyone wanted it to be. Because to me it feels like sort of a lot of unnecessary extensions
Yeah.
into what's going on, and just, like, I don't know. I'm mostly reading this, I'm like, wow, I am really glad that I will never write or be responsible for writing the sort of Ragnarok
Sure.
battle. It's just so difficult and so boring in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and maybe that's why Brandon felt that he kept having to do something drastic every
3 pages. Yeah.
Robert, whoever structured this. It's just giving the same type of storytelling. I don't know if any of you are My Hero Academia watchers, but I've been having a really difficult time with the last couple of seasons because they're entering their final arc where, like, they're fighting the bad guys, and the bad guys are impossible to defeat. Every time the good guys gain a leg up, the bad guys match it and go higher. And it's just like, how is this supposed to be fun to watch? Like, I'm exhausted. I feel like there's no chance at all. Like, there's no, like, light. Like, it's completely normal storytelling to put your characters in a situation that seems quite bleak and have them fight their way out of it. But every time they get a chance to fight their way out, they're just like, the entrance is blocked off. And that's very much my experience of reading The Last Battle right now. Like, it does not feel fun.
Yeah, it's like that anime form of
Yeah.
quote-unquote epic,
Yeah.
which can be so exhausting, and which a lot of modern anime is like, well, maybe not necessarily. Yeah, it's just like an anime thing, and I think a lot of fantasy falls into this trap, too, of, like, in any climactic sequence has to involve people just Dragon Ball Z style powering up.
Yeah.
And powering up in opposition to each other over and over again, instead of bringing sort of, like, more nuanced takes on climaxes. I don't know.
Yeah, and I get it. It's hard. I definitely couldn't write a battle sequence like this, nor do I have any desire to do so. It just feels, my subjective reading experience of it is really unpleasant. I'm not having a good time.
Painful, yeah. The last thing is that Galad also is now sort of has a vendetta against Demandred.
I, too, will go kill Demandred.
And the funniest possible outcome of this is that Galad and Logain, Spider-Man style, point at each other, are like, oh, let's do a team up and kill Demandred. But tragically, that isn't what happens, because no one writing this series has a sense of fun.
I think the
pizzazz.
funniest outcome would actually be that Galad kills Demandred, and it's not even hard for him. Just sort
God.
of, like,
You're
cementing
so right.
the fact that
Gawain was a total
just a complete loser. Like, the worst brother in every conceivable way.
Galad's like, what? Like, it's hard? And Gawain in the afterlife is like...
Chewing at the bars.
Rattling on the bars like a hamster in need of a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we get a Tam point of view that's just like, they're out of arrows. Ugh. This sucks. And that's it for this section. Some major character deaths. Some major character lives.
Some major character lives. Tuon unfortunately lives.
Yeah, Androl is still alive.
Andrel's still here.
Which is tragic.
Unfortunately, no one's killed him yet.
Yeah. But we inch ever closer.
We get introduced to Shendla, our new favorite character.
Shendla. Let's keep an eye on Shendla and see if A, she appears ever again. B, she has any sort of arc.
Like, also, girl, what's your taste in men? That you look at Bao the Wild. It's probably all the gaslighting, but still.
It's all, yeah, it's the gaslight, gatekeep, girl bossing that Demandred's doing. He's a real scammer.
Yeah.
Like that Tinder guy.
Scammer.
Yeah.
The Tinders.
The Tinder swindler.
Swindler.
Yeah.
Could not say that.
Shendel's like, what are you gonna do? I've been swindled, as has my entire nation. That's just the kind of guy he is.
And you're like,
You're like, I don't think he has that sort of Rizz. Then again, every time I watch a documentary about a cult leader, I'm like, oh, I don't really get the Rizz, you know?
I know, you never know until they're actively using their tactics on you.
It must be something about the eye contact.
Yeah.
Sort of a snake gaze.
The love bombing.
Ugh. Okay, so overall, unpleasant.
real stinker. I guess like a half apology for being super negative about the last battle. I know it's very precious to a lot of you, and I will try to have more fun next week.
It's hard to have fun, is all I'll say about this. When it's just like, hey, people are dying and we really want you to take that seriously. And I'm like, Gawain? You want me to take Gawain dying seriously?
If you want me to take someone dying seriously, you should kill a character that I care about.
Yeah, which at this point in the series is a precariously low number.
Yeah,
so.
very few.
Anyway.
I mean, I'm worried about Gaul in the dream world.
Oh my god, Gaul. That's like the main tension that is carrying me through the last battle. What the fuck is happening with Gaul?
I'm stressed about that.
I think we should have more, like, back and forths to Gaul. Just, like...
Instead of check-ins with Rand and the Dark One, it's just
check-ins
with Gaul and the wolves.
And just standing there with his spear, like, so...
Hey, dog.
Is anyone coming to get me?
Yeah. Or do I live here now, king of the wolves?
Gaul becomes a wolf. Yeah. Become the monster.
There are 2 wolves inside of you.
And by the time Perrin comes to pick him up, Gaul has just fully mastered not only Teleron Riyadh, but also being a wolf. And Perrin's like, hey, it took me 13 books to do that. And Gaul's like,
bitchless.
What? Bitchless. Loser. Okay. This has been Everybody's Rant. Thanks for listening. Thanks for giving us a break last week. As mentioned, we were traveling. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song, and thanks to our patrons on Patreon.
We love you guys.
And our followers on social media. I think I missed you. Do you have a sign-off?
Yeah, I actually have 2. Would you like to be offered?
I would like to know, yeah. I know one of them.
Yeah, one is about tea, and the other is about our cats. I can tell you both.
Tell me both.
Okay, the first one, and you can pick in the podcast final edit. We'll listen to the blooper reel for whichever one of these you don't get. As previously mentioned, we were traveling, and when we get back, the cats, particularly Tybalt, get very anxious. And one thing Tybalt loves more than anything in the world is sitting in a suitcase. Mm-hmm. So when I unpacked...
cat behavior.
Yeah, whatever. I unpacked my suitcase. I left it open for him that night to just, like, chill in. And as I get ready, I'm, like, in bed, ready to go to sleep, and I hear all sorts of rustling. So I get out of bed and come out here. And Tybalt is standing on the suitcase, pressing down on the lid of it with his paws. And I'm like, hello? And so I kick him off of it, and Ed comes springing out of the suitcase like a jack-in-the-box.
Trapped.
Yeah, Tybalt was like pinning Ed in the suitcase. And I was like, hey, what the fuck type of psychotic behavior is this?
Tybalt was like, no, check it out, I promise. It's the cask of Amontillado.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, dude, I've got some sweet cat treats in this suitcase.
And Ed was like, I trust my brother, of course.
Of course I do.
I could have died, Ed.
And then poor Ed starts sprinting around.
Boo.
Yeah, poor guy.
Okay,
anyway, those were both ridiculous.
Have a good week, everyone. Goodbye.